The contract with Fujitsu would not have been... the contract with Fujitsu, sorry, let me start again, existed over a very, very long period of time, as the inquiry knows. I was involved with reviewing the strategy and some of the content of the contract with Fujitsu as we prepared to retender the Horizon system in up and during 2015. The original contract with Fujitsu and versions before that would not have crossed my desk as network director or as managing director. What should have happened is the service level agreements within that contract should have been reported on differently than they were. And that also might point to some of your points about bugs, errors and defects. Because if I turn to those, the reporting that the group executive, the chief executive and the board received, and the inquiry heard this from Leslie Sewell as well, was at different levels. So I think we had a level 0 and a level 1 that came to my level and to the board. Issues that cropped up below that were not reported. One of the biggest challenges, as I have been going through all of this documentation, is realizing how much went on at an individual postmaster level. So when a bug affected large numbers of post offices, or there was an outage which affected large numbers of post offices, or a network failure, they were raised. But if a single sub-postmaster made a call X number of times to a service centre, it wouldn't have been picked up. And I think from a governance point of view, there is, and the point has been made previously, a very important lesson around the issue of the institution and the individual. How does somebody, as a chief executive of an institution this large and complex, have sight to what happens to an individual if they are affected by a bug? The only thing I can think about is that it ought to be possible to have data which reports the number of times a postmaster may complain about something, the number of disputes that have not been resolved, age disputes, disputes where postmasters have challenged them.
Isn't all this really obvious?
It is, and it wasn't in place, and it should have been.
If it was really obvious, why wasn't it in place?
I think because of the way that the reporting had been planned. Management information across many areas of a business tends to be written in layers of escalation. And the layers of escalation that were selected around IT and Fujitsu were such that it didn't. And I think this probably happens in many, many other large institutions too. It didn't give you, on a board, a line of sight to what happened to an individual. And we are seeing the terrible impact of that today.
So is the overall answer to my question that you don't believe that there was a conspiracy to deny you information and documents? The reason such information and documents didn't reach you was the way that the company was organised and structured?
I think in the majority of cases, yes, that is true.
And who was responsible for organising and structuring the company?
Sorry, if I may just say, the other point is that I have seen documents and I have heard evidence where I think colleagues did know more information than was shared, and in those cases either mistakes were made or they decided it wasn't appropriate to do so. To your first point, in terms of, sorry, could you say that again?
Yes. If it was the organisation and structure of the company that prevented this information and these documents from reaching you, who was responsible for organising and structuring the company after you became CEO?
I was responsible for... As CEO, you're accountable for everything. You have experts who report to you. So the decision on what would have been reported on IT, for instance, would have been decided by the IT director. When I was chief executive, in an attempt to get more on top of some of the issues that were reported, I asked Alistair Cameron, for instance, to put in place an operations board where it began to review some of those things that were raised. But in terms of what you put in a report, the IT reports the post office had were not that different from ones I've seen in other big corporate companies. The difference for the post office, as a result of what we're discussing here today, is that it somehow at the time, it did not see what was happening in an individual post office, if that was, it was just at a level that didn't reach us, and that was wrong. And there needs to be different sort of reporting that would have flagged that.
In a note that Alice Perkins wrote before the departure of Susan Crichton to you, she said, quote, "It's the fact that she, that's Susan, sees so much as beyond her control that's the problem. It's her alibi." Do you think the same could be said of you?
No, definitely not. I asked questions, I oversaw the strategy which would have introduced changes where we felt it was appropriate to the organisation. I probed, I worked in a structured way and an informal way. I would walk around the desks in the organisation and talk to people just to find out what was going on. I was sometimes criticised in team development events for being too curious and stepping too much into people's territory. I don't think that's a criticism that could have been levelled at me.
You tell us that you always enjoyed a good relationship with Moya Green, the chief executive of Royal Mail Group, in your witness statement.
Yeah, we had a good working relationship.
You say, no need to turn it up, paragraph 259 on page 114, "I got on very well with Moya."
I got on very well with most of the people I work with, yeah.
I'm focusing on Moya Green at the moment. She overlapped very extensively as chief executive of Royal Mail Group, with your holding the most senior positions in the post office. Yes?
Yes.
She became CEO of Royal Mail Group in July 2010. You became MD of Post Office in October 2010.
Yes.
She left in 2018 and you left in early 2019.
Yes.
So a very substantial period of overlap. Can we look, please, at PVEN 50532? This is a new document for the inquiry, having been properly disclosed by you recently. It's an iMessage exchange with Moya Green, and I think you'll be familiar with it.
What was the reference again, Mr. Beer? Sorry.
PVEN 50532.
Thank you.
Can you help us to date it, please?
I think this is January this year.
You'll see that the way you've screenshotted it includes the words "yesterday" at 6:46. That doesn't literally mean yesterday from the day that you disclosed it to us. It was
I think Moya had been away. She had come back to the UK. I have a sense this is around January time because I think it was at the time of the ITV drama.
That would make sense because in the third paragraph it says Nick was a poor witness, chairman gone. That's a reference to Mr. Staunton, yes?
I believe so.
And he resigned, I think, or was required to resign on the 27th of January 2024.
Yes.
Let's just read through it. Paula, I'm just back in the UK. What I have learned from the inquiry / parliamentary committee questions is very damaging. Nick, that's Nick Reed, yes?
Yes.
Nick Reed was a poor witness. Chairman, as we've established, that's Mr. Henry Staunton, correct, yes? Has gone. He will be next. When it was clear the system was at fault, the Post Office should have raised a red flag, stopped all proceedings, given people back their money, and then tried to compensate them from the ruin this caused in their lives. Moya. And then if we go down, please, the next page. Keep going. You say in reply, yes, I agree. This has, stroke is, taking too long, Moya. The toll on everyone affected is dreadful. I hope you had a good break and are well. Best wishes, Paula. Moya Green. I don't know what to say. I think you knew. Moya. You reply, no, Moya, that isn't the case. She replies, I want to believe you. I asked you twice. I suggested you get an independent review, reporting to you. I was afraid you were being lied to. You said the system had already been reviewed multiple times. How could you not have known? Over the page. And scroll down. Moya, the mechanism for getting to the bottom of this is the inquiry. I've made it my priority to support it fully. Moya Green. The Post Office did not. They dragged their heels. They did not deliver documents. They did not compensate people. Paula, you appealed the judge's decision. I'm sorry. I can't now support you. I've supported you all these years to my own detriment. I can't support you now after what I have learned at Moya. You'll see in the course of that exchange, Moya Green accuses you of knowing.
Yes.
Did you understand that to be an accusation that you knew about bugs, errors and defects in her horizon?
No, I understood this to be Moya, and there is a further series of exchanges of text where Moya steps back a little bit from the challenges that she's putting here. I understood that Moya had returned to the country earlier this year, that she had been listening to all of the information in the inquiry, and she was trying to square her memory with what she was hearing. That's.
If we go up a page, please. She says in the second text down, I think you knew, and you say that isn't the case. What did you think you were denying?
I think Moya was possibly suggesting there that there was some conspiracy, as you mentioned earlier, and as I said, I didn't believe that was the case. She may have been saying that I knew. No, I think it's the same thing. I was going to say about a cover-up, but the same thing.